Because you're so beautiful like a diamond, you're going to be a prime target to have your energy siphoned. And energy siphoning happens in the easiest of ways. It happens when people try to convince you of a flaw or problem that isn't there, and then you start believing it, and then you start attracting it into your reality. There's a multitude of ways that people siphon your energy, and it's so insidious because they don't even have to be physically present to do it. Their influence on your thoughts and emotions is a form of energetic vampirism. So they siphon your energy when they give you the silent treatment, and you're left psychoanalyzing why they did what they did and what's wrong with me that caused them to do what they did to me. It feels draining. You're left feeling exhausted. And this is what you need to ask yourself when you leave an encounter with someone. Do I feel energized or do I feel drained? And sometimes it's not that black and white. It's not that simple. Sometimes they're really sweet on paper with potential perks that will cause you to tolerate things that you don't necessarily love for the benefits. And then you get a feeling. Something's off. Something's not right about this situation or person. And that's your gut. That's your gut telling you, hey, everything is not as it seems. Maybe there's a bit of a hidden motive here. And then what everyone does is they gaslight their gut feeling, and they're like, well, he did this for me, she did this for me, she said that, he sent this. They look at the tangible things, the surface level charm of how people manipulate them, and gaslight their gut feeling, which you should never do. If you're someone who has a way with words, you'll know the exact things to say to a person. If you're aware of their self-esteem level, you'll know exactly what buttons to push to get them to do or react the way you want them to do. And if you're a Pisces, you'll know how to really play on their emotions. And since we're in Pisces season, emotional sensitivity is heightened and people are more susceptible to emotional manipulation. Your friendships and your relationships should make you feel secure, safe, and supported. If everything was all right, then you wouldn't be feeling this way. I don't know if you guys have ever seen like videos of women crashing out. I never think what's wrong with her, and I feel like the dominant narrative is to pinpoint the more emotional person as the one with the issue, but it's never that simple. If someone doesn't make you feel safe or secure or supported in your friendship or your relationship, you're liable to crash out. You are. If someone's making you feel like they're 1 foot in, 1 foot out, or even the people that they have impulsive energy to where they make promises and there's never any follow through, you're liable to crash out. It's not hard to be a good person. Think about the emotional distress that it causes the other person when you're not making them feel safe, secure, or supported in the relationship.
Why is it that someone who is so abusive can be seen by other people as the nice guy? It's so maddening, but the Gabby Petito documentary continues to show us why society is so bad at spotting abusers. The body cam footage that we got to see is textbook reactive abuse. And if you don't know what reactive abuse is, it's pretty much when the victim has been abused for so long that they finally have an outburst. When this happens, the abuser capitalizes on this and says, see, you're the crazy one. I've seen a lot of people on social media talking about this case saying, see, people don't believe women until they're dead. And there is actual research that they found that when a man is angry, people assume it's because something happened. But when a woman is angry, people assume that it is a flaw in her personality. And we see all of this play out with Gabby with the cops. First of all, she is accused to be the aggressor because she is the one freaking out after she was hit by Brian. She is taking all of the blame. She is also blaming herself that she has OCD. She's being blamed by the cops. Oh, it seems like you have anxiety. Oh, just like my wife. And then we have Brian over there with the cops. He seems calm, normal, charming. He's making jokes. And then Gabby is basically painted as being the overreactionary aggressor, to the point where Brian is placed in a hotel by the cops and Gabby is left to sleep in the van by herself and told to go take a shower in a truck stop. Brian Laundrie knew exactly what he was doing by staying calm while Gabby spiraled. This is what abusers do. They manipulate perception. Even think about the interviews in the Gabby Petito documentary. There wasn't anyone really saying, oh yeah, he was crazy, he was super aggressive, I knew he was evil. Most of them said, yeah, when I met Brian, he was a nice guy. And this is why so many victims are dismissed, because they assume, okay, if someone isn't a raging monster 24/7, then they must be a nice guy. But the truth is, most abusers don't look like abusers. They look like boyfriends, they look like husbands, they look like coworkers, they look like friends.
Because if they truly valued you, they'd have no problem making you feel safe. If you're someone who is an overthinker, then your person should have no problem being a little bit more thorough and more extensive when they're talking to you so that you don't overthink. If they know this about you, why wouldn't they go out your way to make your life a little easier? This is why you feel drained when you cut them off. So when you have an energetic tie to someone, which can be created through prolonged exposure to the person or sex, it creates a cord between the two of you to where you can feel their emotions subtly and sometimes overtly if you are really tuned in. You can really pick up on their thoughts, feelings, and vibrations. And you're probably going to feel like a little crazy sometimes. You're like, why do I feel this way? This is not my energy. Like, most people don't realize it. You just think it's, oh, it's me, like I'm crazy. But it's not that simple. It's not that simple. Energy is mutual. If you're thinking about someone for no goddamn reason, they just pop in your head, it's probably because they're thinking about you too.
You have a physical wound, you have a spiritual wound. And so when that man has entrance, right, into your womb space, he now has access to your thoughts. Your personal will. That's why some of you are like, I can't stop thinking about it. And your emotions. That's why you crashing out. Because now what you got to understand, when you have had that interaction with him, that sacred interaction with him, there's a part of his DNA that is then transferred to a part of your brain, which is the reward system known as the amygdala. So even when he has treated you like the red ring around baloney, there's a part of you that's like, no, but he's still a good person. It's not that he's a good person. It's that when y'all were oohing and ahhing, your brain told you this feels good. So you will make an excuse for somebody that should have never entered into your womb space. And you mean to tell me soul ties ain't real? No. They're tying you to them. And let me tell you, let's go a little bit deeper. And if at any moment during those, spicy times, that person looked at you in your eyes and said to you that this belongs to me, and then he began to ask you questions, who does it belong to? And y'all looking eye to eye, and you told that man, you just bound yourself to him in the soulish realm and in the spirit realm. And you're wondering why it is that even though he's had babies on you, giving you multiple diseases that you can't break free, because you have an energetic cord and a soul tie to this person. So when people are like, oh no, soul ties don't exist, baby, you need to do a little bit more research, because they damn sure exist.
I know to some of you that might sound crazy, but it is what it is. I'm just giving you it straight up, no chaser. So if you don't cut the cord, they can still siphon your energy. And what that looks like is, oh, I was talking to this really beautiful girl, and now, oh, I'm the man. I can do all these things. Like, let me go out and see my options. Let me, see what's out there, because I was able to pull this baddie. She's so gorgeous, but, let me go and see what's out there. They go out and they try to replicate the same experience and have that same energy and joy that they got from you, and they never find it because they don't realize that it was your energy that allowed them to access that version of themselves that makes them feel more confident, more valuable, more ready to take on life. They never make the correlation that it's your energy that allowed them to feel that way. I'm sorry, when you're a loser with low self-esteem and a bunch of problems, sometimes it's just gonna feel good to be in the proximity of success, beauty, and abundance. Maybe if I hang around her, maybe if I hang around him, maybe some of that good energy will rub off on me. And a lot of us have what I call star energy. We help people come up simply from knowing us. Look at the Black wife effect trend on TikTok from months ago. And it has nothing to do with race. It's literally just any woman who's got it going on will help that energy, her radiance will help that man come up. So sometimes they just want to say they had you more than they actually want you. Basically, everybody says cut the cord, you have to cut the cord, but no one ever talks about what happens when you actually do cut the cord. Sometimes when you cut the cord, it's not severed, it's just weakened. The link is weakened, and that's when you go from feeling like really great about yourself. You're like, oh my god, what was I thinking dealing with this loser? Oh my god, look at me, I've got so much to give to the world. You're feeling good, and by the end of the block that you're walking down, you're holding back your tears, trying to find your keys and like trying to get in the door so no one can see you crying because of what they did to you. That's what happens when you cut the cord. They start to cling to your energy. That's when you know when you start crying out of the blue, that's when you know this is not my energy. When you're not actually upset And when you're not at, like, if you're at a good place in your life, right? I remember just being at a happiest point in my life, very accomplished, accomplishing personal goals that I've wanted for years. And then style ideations would come into my head, and that's when I knew something was up. That's when I knew someone was doing something out there and sending me some type of energy that would make me want to myself. That's what happens when you cut the cord. They cling to your energy. You can't stop thinking about them. You start having unprovoked thoughts about them, sometimes even sexual. And I'll tell you why that happens. That happens because they're unconsciously manifesting you using the O method. Think about it. All it takes is an excessive amount of negative energy sent to you for your evil eye bracelet to break off. Now imagine what someone masturbating over you is doing. That's all manifestation is. Excessive, focused intention on a subject or outcome. And I know it may be taboo, but sexual energy is how a lot of people manifest, and they do it unconsciously, but it's one of like the last things someone does in the 3D world when they feel you slipping away out of their grip. They start tugging to that cord for dear life, sending you sexual energy, draining you of that life force and that chi that could be used for everything else that would make you happy. And that's how they siphon your energy. Everyone wants to go viral so bad. Everyone wants to be famous so bad. But think about how fame traumatizes people. When you go viral or you have a viral video, it's millions of eyes on you, and not everyone is going to agree with your message. And if you're getting negative backlash, think about that. Millions of people on their phones looking at your video, your image, sending you negative energy. You're going to feel psychically attacked from all those evil eyes. You're going to feel unsettled, and you're just going to feel, even if you put your phone down, out of sight, out of mind, you're going to feel like you're in a room and someone is talking shit in that room and you barely can hear what's going on. You're not going to feel good. And on the topic of feeling unsettled, that's how the other person in the 3D world feels when you cut the cord. They start feeling drained. They start feeling like something is off, but I don't really know what's going on. They start feeling drained. They start feeling lack of motivation, depression even, because they don't realize that they were siphoning your energy, and your energy allowed them to feel that like confidence and vigor. It's like a bad batch of drugs that come down from a bad batch of drugs. You know, and you've been out partying and you know the sun's coming up and you're in the back of the Uber and you don't got your sunglasses and you're trying to cover your hair and your face so the Uber driver doesn't see you. No, just me, but yeah, it's like a bad come down off of drugs. I want you to start seeing your energy as liquid gold, as euphoria, as a life source, because it truly is. And when you cut that cord and that cord is severed, that person who is feeding off of your energy, they go back to baseline. They can't really figure out why things are not going as smoothly for them anymore. Like a parasite, they were feeding off of you and siphoning your energy. It's the nature of the energy vampire. If I don't have adequate self-esteem and I don't feel good about myself, I'm gonna have to absorb other people's energy so I can thrive and go on. These are the people that don't do the work. They're the people that use emotional avoidance as a defense mechanism. They push all their feelings under a rug and make up a bunch of excuses to soothe their ego as to why they're so great. They're the people who attract different people in the same exact bodies, and they wonder why. And they never realize, how was I benefiting from that person's energy? Never make the correlation that, oh, maybe that person was the secret sauce to my success. Like, yeah, I'm great and all, but their influence and their perspective really did uplift me. They never make the correlation that the person who they're not talking to anymore could have been a key component in their success. They never make that correlation because they're so self-absorbed. And there's nothing wrong with being self-absorbed, but being self-absorbed with a zero empathy, like a Taurus, that's when the problem comes in. that's when we have a problem. Shots fired. Shots fired. A lot of us were the secret sauce to people's success. We are the mayonnaise that the sandwich needs to be creamier and juicier, and they take us for granted. So ask yourself, where in your life are you being taken for granted right now? Because people's lives completely fall apart when the other party has reclaimed their energy. Look at Giselle after she left Tom Brady. You know, he was looking a little, anyways. Let's talk about friendships and acquaintances and people who follow you but never engage with your post or anything you do. Let's talk about how they siphon your energy. One of the biggest lessons I've learned from being a good person is you want to avoid people who have low self-esteem and people who have the propensity to compare themselves to you. Now, a little bit of comparison in relationships are healthy. It can even be quite inspirational when you're using a friend as a benchmark to be like, wow, she did this, well, I can do it too. Something that I thought was impossible, like maybe owning a house, to see my friend do it makes me think like, oh my God, like, if we were both at the same position in life at some point, then I could do it too. A little bit of comparison can be healthy, but the problem comes in when you have secret animosity in the friendship. So this is what competitiveness in friendships looks like. Hey girl, your hair looks good, but oh my God, let me fix it. It's a little frizzy right there. You know what I love? I love the Davines leave-in cream conditioner. I spray it on my hair and it just gets rid of any flyaways, any humidity. It's great. I like it. And then the other person responds, oh, yeah. Well, I go to the best blonde colorist here in LA, and she gave me this, like, I just had this treatment done, and I think maybe, like, how was that? Was it $500 or was it $1,000? Oh, by the way, I'm coming out with an ebook too. And, it's going to be great. It's going to sell out. Oh my God. John opened the door for me today. And that's how I know he's the one. I'm going to be married by the end of the year. How about you? How are you doing? How about that one? Is he still around? When it feels like the person is trying to prove something to you, or it feels like they're trying to one up on you, or it feels like a relationship where you're just listing out your ambitions, goals, and your successes, and there's no realness to the relationship, like there's no vulnerability shown in the relationship. It's just kind of like surface level. It's kind of like a coworker. You have a mutual interest, a mutual target, and you come together to get that target. It's not like a, you have your people you can really let loose with and just like express your opinions without feeling judged or feeling like you need to police your words or be on eggshells. We all have experienced that. Competitiveness looks like, well, I want to like you and you seem great on paper and shit, like you look so damn good and wow, I think you're even better than me. But I'm not gonna let you know that. I'm either gonna humble you by pretending you don't exist and giving you zero importance, or I'm gonna do something really shady behind your back to sabotage you. Like, don't get me wrong, it's one thing to rant and complain to your friends. That is normal, but if your friend is always ranting and complaining and they've been complaining about the same thing over and over again, and you've offered solutions, practical solutions that are not that hard, and they don't do it, then they just like victimizing themselves. They don't really care for your solutions. That's a friend you need to be aware of. Someone who doesn't seem to ever get it right. I know I might sound harsh here, but this is hard learned lessons of wanting the best for people and when they secretly don't like you. And the thing is, we're getting deep now. A lot of the times you don't see your own power and other people will see your power. And it's so sad in a way because you don't think that someone is underestimating you or they feel superior than you, especially when you're looking for a mentor or advice from someone who has done something that you want to do, and you're taking knowledge and information from them, and you're also respecting them as a person. You're not necessarily thinking like, oh, they feel like they're better than me, they're underestimating me, and it kind of gives them a high to know that, they're superior to me. A lot of the times you just don't realize your power that would cause people to be envious or jealous of you. And sometimes physical appearance does that for a lot of people. On paper, someone could technically have more money than you, have more success than you, have more tangible opportunities than you, and still feel jealous and intimidated by your presence. Would you look at that's crazy, right? I know it's crazy to think about. But the reason why someone would feel that way is because they know that their success is hollow. Whereas like it's okay, like it's one thing to like have all these followers and stuff, but if you've made your success and you've gotten to the top off of hollow things and you aren't really influential as a person, you're going to feel intimidated by someone who has significantly less social proof of success than you, who might have not made the same strides as you, but yet they have more influence and impact on people because their success is not hollow. Their success is built from the ground up. And they're doing the inner work. They're telling themselves, how are they successful? How do they look this good? They haven't followed my formula. I'm so right. I'm right about everything. But how the hell are they experiencing success still? Like, I don't get it. Like, I'm the blueprint. So why are they doing better than me? It's really dark. It's really dark, and we're taking it there in this video. I'm sorry if this makes you makes anyone feel uncomfortable, but I feel like it's appropriate for Pisces season since, yeah. Another thing I think you need to pay attention to is friends who seem really happy when you're down. And I know this might seem obvious, but it's not really obvious, especially if you're looking at someone for mentorship or advice. You kind of have a filter on your eyes that prevents you from seeing them as someone who potentially would want to hurt you or make you feel bad or are putting you in a box of a loser. So for example, a long time ago, I got my eyebrows waxed for the first time. I never do that. I'm usually like someone who gets their eyebrows threaded or I'll tweeze them myself. And I had like a bad waxing situation, so where it was winter, my skin was really sensitive and they literally ripped my skin off of my eyebrows. And literally, my friend was having uncontrollable laughter. She was so happy at my misfortune. And if that wasn't a sign enough, like, okay, I get it. Like, some of us, we laugh when we're uncomfortable, but like, girl, it wasn't that funny. So this is something that you need to pay attention to, because the problem is if someone feels superior than you and then you surpass them, then there's a cognitive dissonance. I don't know if that's the right word. I think it's the right word, but there's a disconnect in the mind. I put you in a certain box and you've put yourself out of that box. And I can't have it. My brain can't process that. And in friendships, it could be the most simplest thing, like, oh my God, she wears extensions, she wears weave, and I don't have to. This is my real hair, baby. And you know what? Because my hair is real and long, I'm better than you. I'm better than you because I don't have to use tools to amplify my beauty. I don't wear makeup, and you know what? It's because I don't need it. It's because I'm more beautiful than you. It's because I'm better than you. I can tell you, anyone wearing extensions, weaves, wigs, they don't care about the girl who has 2 strands of hair on her head. But it always seems to be the girl with 2 strands of hair on her head that has the most to say about the girl who uses tools to amplify her beauty. And they never think in their mind, oh, maybe this is a personal aesthetic choice. Maybe even an aesthetic choice for financial gain. They just think, oh, they're insecure. They literally rationalized whatever. They'll take anything and rationalize it in a way that paints you as one worse than them, doing worse than them. Anything, any flaw, any little thing. Wow, she has a hair on her leg. I knew she wasn't perfect. It could be as simple as that. I think one thing that's so sad to think about is people's expectations are rooted in us underestimating you. Even the people that sometimes are close to you and people that you trust, sometimes their expectations are rooted in underestimating you. It's never, oh, Maybe she got that long hair because she works in a male dominated field and men respond to long hair. And if she gets that long hair and spends that money on that long hair, she's going to get paid more for doing less while she's working in that male dominated field. She's making a smart aesthetic decision that's going to get her more money in the end. It's always like, oh, she's insecure. She's bald. She's bald and she's twitching. Like, she's bald. People's expectations are rooted in underestimating you. And that's something that you've got to understand. I think anyone who's gone through a glow up in their life can resonate with this. As soon as you get a little bit of success, a little bit of social proof of success, all of a sudden people from your past coming out the woodworks. Girl, they're watching this video right now. They start coming out the woodworks. They start attaching themselves to your success. So it's something as simple as, you know, they start asking people who know you about you. Oh, like they try to figure out how you're making money, how things are going for you. They find any excuse to bring you up in conversations with people who know you. And they say things like, oh, I knew her when she didn't even know how to do eyeliner. I knew her when she didn't even know how to do this, that, and the third. They constantly conjure the old version of you. They're constantly conjuring that old version, that old outdated perception of you to anchor you to your past. They want your past of when you were struggling, when you weren't successful, when you were insecure and had anxiety about everything. They want to anchor you to that old outdated perception of you because it makes them feel better about you surpassing them and your successes. Think about how many people do that. A lot of parents do this. This is what happens when you're the Kim K of the family. You have grown up, you've become an adult, you are not who you once were, and then they put you in that box of who you were when you were 15 years old or less. It's a way to siphon your energy. It's so emotionally draining, especially if you don't like the old version of you and you changed for a reason. It siphons your energy. Let me teleport this person back into the past where they were struggling, they were insecure, and let me remind them where they really came from. Let me humble them. That's what they do. Yeah. And what's crazy to me, what's so crazy to me that I've learned about how people siphon your energy, it's like even a man who broke up with you, the girl starts losing weight. She starts glowing up. Her hair starts getting long. She starts getting her edges back. Everything's going well for her. She's having an overall glow up. And he's like, well, who the hell is this? Where was this in the relationship? And then you know what they do to soothe their ego? They're like, well, yeah, I was the catalyst for her losing weight. I broke her heart, and that's why she's looking extra good. Anything to attach themselves to your success. Anything to attach themselves to you. They're literally bottom feeders. They're bottom feeders. Anything to feel validated, anything to get attention, anything to feel worthy, because they won't do the work. Don't get me wrong, we all like our ego stroked a little bit. You know, I love when ChatGPT strokes my ego. I'll even purposely ask questions so it could stroke my ego, but I'm sorry. If that's the only way you feel good about yourself, getting validation from other people on how you are as a person, then you're a loser. I'm sorry to say it. You've got work to do. I truly feel like if you're someone with emotional avoidance issues, if that has been a coping mechanism for you, a defense mechanism for you, you just shut down, you just disappear, out of sight, out of mind, it's like it never happened, then I don't think you should be dating or in relationships until you've learned to do the deeper work. If processing your emotions is something that is uncomfortable for you, then you just need to sit with it and you need to work with that. A lot of people, they can't even, like, you'll sit here and pour your heart out in a text and just like really like from all angles just explain why what they're doing hurt you, why what they did was wrong, how it made you feel, etc., etc. Because they can't process their emotions, they jumped into defensiveness. And they never take accountability for their actions. I truly feel like if you have emotional issues, you should not be dating. You're just going out here and your emotional chaos is just destroying other people. Like, love is not supposed to hurt. Love is not supposed to make you feel so damn bad.
A man that is not emotionally intelligent will never understand how his actions could have hurt you. He will always think that, well, it wasn't that bad. And he will also think that because it wasn't his intention that you'll be okay. You will never get that man to see the effects of what he did to you. So you have to do one of two things. Accept the fact that he'll never really understand it. He'll never really get it. So there's a possibility he's going to do it multiple times, or you could choose to walk away. Because what ends up happening is you have this constant conversation of what that person did and how their actions affected you negatively. And in their mind, they can't be seen as the perpetrator. Oh, that's not me. They can never say, you know what, even though that wasn't my intention, I understand that I hurt you. And here's what I'm going to do to make sure that I never do that again. They can't do that. In their mind, it's always like, well, of course you should take me back. Of course we should be able to move on and we should be able to live happily ever after, because that's not me. God knows my heart. God knows exactly who I am. It could not have been that bad. And you will forever be in a cycle, and you'll never get the validation that you need, and you'll never feel comfortable with that man, and you'll never trust that man to be able to take care of you going forward. You know why? Because to this day, 10 years later, he will never see that his actions were actually that bad, actually that negative. So babe, it's going to hurt, because you're never going to get the validation that you need and that comfort and that reassurance. And both of y'all are going to be going back and forth. So I would say just leave. Because you'll probably be wasting your time, because men like that need therapy. And a lot of men like that, they're not going. They're not going to therapy because, once again, I could never do anything like that. They have the savior complex, and it's their ego as well. Like, how dare you tell me I hurt you? I don't do those things. No, you do, babes. You do.
Now let's talk about performative parenting and how parents continuously siphon their kids' energy. We know we've all been sold the dream, the American dream. You know, you become a wife, you have kids, you get married, blah, 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 the house, etc., etc. We've all been sold a certain dream to some extent. And I feel like a lot of people have children to make themselves look good. They don't actually care about the mental well-being of the child. They just have that kid to be like, oh, look at me, look at my kids. They're doing so good. Like, think about this for a second. Think about this. Why would a single father unprovoked tell you that they're not a deadbeat, they're not an absent father, they go to PTA meetings, they're a great dad, unprovoked? Why would someone tell you that? Is it because that's their reality, or is it because that's the reality that they're trying to convince themselves of so that they feel better about their emotional avoidance issues? A lot of parents think, oh, if I have money, I'm a good parent. Money equals a good parent. When children need more than material support, they need emotional support as well. That kid is going to grow up thinking like, well, I had a dad, I had a father, I had a mom. But did I really? Were they really there? That kid's going to grow up feeling like they never had a parent or a support system. In fact, they might even adopt the same emotional avoidance issue. Guilt tripping is another way that a lot of parents siphon their kids' energy. So I want you to imagine a woman and a man, they have a baby, and it's a baby mama situation, right? They're not connected. They start fighting. The kid doesn't really bond the relationship. If anything, it just makes it more chaotic. And so the mother, she doesn't regret having that child. And she's like, you know what? I'm moving to another country. I want to have a better life. So she takes her child with her, even though she doesn't regret having that child because it's the righteous thing to do. And she's a religious woman. So it's like, you know, she doesn't regret having the child. It also came from her womb. So it's like something that came from you. You're always going to be attached to it in some form or shape. But she's not really emotionally invested in nurturing that child, because in some ways that child is a reminder of a life she wanted to escape. It's her love child. And so that child grows up feeling like it doesn't matter what that child does, that child gets great grades, but that mother comes up to the school and she's looking for everything that went wrong with that child. It doesn't matter if that child has excelled in Spanish, English, social studies, or history. The fact that that child failed geometry, they're a horrible child. And so So that child grows up just feeling like, oh my God, like I have to be the best I can. Like they start craving that mother's approval always, always. And just, it's draining. It siphons the energy. And the thing is, you can grow up, you can take care of your parent, you can buy them a house, buy them just like your shitty fucking parent, just transform their lives. And they would still go back to baseline and they would still treat you like shit. You want to know why? Because the issue was never with you, it was with your father. This is how your parents siphon your energy. When people have children that they're not emotionally invested in nurturing, it siphons your energy. Everything will be a guilt trip for that child unless they choose themselves. And I want you to remember, all these people who siphon your energy, all they're teaching you is to choose yourself. I call them pets, personal emotional trainers. All they're doing is teaching you how to choose yourself. When that child grows up and that child chooses itself, then they're free to create connections that are fulfilling. If that child doesn't choose itself, then they're going to be if that child doesn't choose themselves like a dummy, then they're left with a whole bunch of emotional problems, a whole bunch of trauma that they bring into other relationships, which brings me to my next term, enmeshment. Blood really means nothing if your familial ties cause you extreme distress and anxiety. Something that I feel like a lot of people should consider before they go into marriages and relationships is, how does your partner handle conflict with their family? And you could have the most amazing, successful relationship, happy, peaceful, this is your person, and then you marry them, and then you realize that they're attached to their parents in an unhealthy way, to where they choose their mother over you all the time, or their father over you all the time. And it's just, it's really dark, because this is supposed to be your spouse, your immediate family, the one they let into the hospital when you're going through it and you're sick on that hospital bed, and they choose their family over you. It's quite sinister and toxic. A lot of people have trauma bonds with their family where the boundaries are blurred. To me, the thing that makes a trauma bond so toxic to break through is like when you combine things like financial hardship, and you have a family member who's been there with you through thick and thin, but they're also really toxic. It's harder to let go. When your survival is enmeshed with this, it's easier to put abuse and trauma and toxicity to the side for your survival. And it's just like, that's like one of the hardest things for people to break. The traumatized person puts that other family member in a box or on a pedestal that external opinions can't really like shape that, even if this person is quite unhealthy or toxic for them. I hope I explained that right. I did. To me, it's not even worth it to be in a relationship with someone that enmeshed. Like for me personally, like I could care less if my person talks to their family or they have this big family unit. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but if you're like enmeshed in a toxic way, to me, it's not even worth it to date someone like that, because they're always going to choose their family over you. And you won't feel safe or secure in your relationships. And your relationships should make you feel safe, secure, and supported. If it makes you uncomfortable to think about how your family might be siphoning your energy, I want you to just sit with it and think about this. Is this person doing me more good, or are they hindering my growth in some aspects? And like I said, it's never gonna be black and white, but you really have to sit here and make a pros and cons list and ask yourself, is the trauma worth it? Is it worth it to keep going on? This is why I also think it's just best to never go back to any past relationships or things like that, because it's so tainted. And it's like, once you break someone's trust, it will never, ever be regained, ever. It's just better to just start new. The universe is an abundant one, and there's so many people out here that are gonna do you right, believe it or not. Contrary to all the negativity that the internet pushes in your face, there are people who are gonna treat you right. They aren't going to make you feel liable to crash out. They're not gonna provoke you and then act like you're the overly emotional one who's crazy. There are people out here who are going to be the right people for you. So when it comes to romantic relationships, it's not so black and white. It's a complex situation, because love between men, women, or women and men, like love between humans is often conditional. But if you're someone who makes a lot of money, I want to employ you to ask yourself, is this person with me because of what I can provide for them? Does this girl only like me because of what I can do for her? Or does she actually appreciate me? Because think about the pressure that will put on you as a provider man. There's the underlying anxiety for them that if I didn't have this money, if I wasn't able to do for my family and my lovers and relationships, would I even be valuable or worthy enough? And that's never a good way for someone who is taking care of you. It's never a good way for them to feel. It's never a good way for you to feel if you're taking care of someone. And vice versa, if you're a girl who makes a lot of money and you're with a guy, is he dating you for your money, or does he actually like you? And in what ways is your energy being siphoned? Does this connection leave you feeling more replenished or drained? And are they with me for my money for potential stability, if not in the short term, maybe the long term? Because that's the thing. That's how the best manipulation happens. It starts real subtle, it starts real easy, it slides in, everything's so good, everything's so great, and then it flips. And then you start seeing what the real person behind the mask is like.
Another consequence of this sort of Disneyfication of romantic relationships is this very unhealthy image or idea of what love really looks like. A lot of young women and men are brainwashed to think that love is more of an attachment. Brian Laundrie was texting her that he was missing her so much because he was spending time with himself and he hates himself. And so her being with him is what he needed to serve a life that was somewhat fulfilling, where he didn't have to spend too much time with the person that he hated, which was himself. This is not love. This is an attachment, because love is freeing. Your partner is not actually your better half. You're supposed to be okay and try to be the best version of yourself for yourself. You shouldn't be neglecting your self-growth and your self-worth just because you're in a relationship. But she thought the fact that this man needed her and constantly wanted to be around her and wanted her all to himself was some sort of romance. That is so incredibly toxic.
Relationship dynamics are different for everyone, so they could be dating you for both reasons. But the question is there mutual reciprocity here? Is your cup being filled up? Are you being replenished? Are you being drained? This is the question you need to ask yourself. A lot of people fear leveling up, and having the right person in your orbit can do so much for you. A man having the right woman can make him so much richer, so much abundant. What did the Bible say? Give a woman of something and it'll multiply. You get where I'm going with this. A man will ghost a beautiful, smart woman because she forces him to be better. And if he's comfortable with where he's at, then he goes poof and ghosts, because that's a lot easier to do the transformative work that's required to be with that woman. It's easier to go poof than to expose his financial limitations to her. Think about this also. What kind of man wants to tell a hot girl who he's into that, one, I can't afford to date you? None. Your energy is siphoned when you chase situations and people that are not working for you. What they'll do is they'll love bomb you. They'll paint this idealized version of themselves in your head. It's kind of like drugs. It's like a high that they give you, and then they withdraw their love. And then you're left feeling like, what's good? Where did it go? Where did it go? What did I do? What's wrong with me? Oh my God. You're left with a loop that they've created in your mind, and now your mind has to fill in the gap. Like, what do people do with drugs? They chase that high. And if you chase, you allow them to siphon your energy. Now you might be asking yourself, like, what's the point? Why do they do this? Why do I have to play games? Like, what is this all for? But think about it this way. If someone has low self-esteem and low confidence, a fear of vulnerability, a fear of rejection, and emotional avoidance issues, then instead of being like, oh, oh my God, I like you. I really do. You're the one for me, but I'm just not at that place in my life right now where I can be with you or date you. I'm just not there. I'm not really ready. My little heart can't handle anymore. Instead of saying that and becoming vulnerable to the person and having a little respect for the person, it's going to be easier to disappear. Out of sight, out of mind. And if you chase them, then they know, one, that you really like them, but two, they didn't have to put their heart out there. They didn't have to really work that hard to get that validation and that energy from you. You're chasing them. So, oh, also, they get to tell themselves that, oh, yeah, you know, she's doing too much. He's doing too much. They're just so desperate. This is a lot of energy. This is not me. When the real root of their issue is their inability to cope with emotions, their emotional immaturity, their insecurities, and their low self-esteem. That's the root of the issue here. And it's so messed up because you, who is just like everyone else in the world, wanting to be loved and cherished and appreciated, you fell victim to someone who is emotionally stunted. If you were to walk around and have an emotional age for everyone you see, you'll notice that everyone, for some reason, stops at 12 or 15. A lot of people are emotionally stunted in growth. Doesn't matter how old they are. Doesn't matter if you want to date older. You're like, oh, maybe I should date older. They'll be like, if I date an older guy, this is what my dumb ass used to tell myself. If I date an older guy, you know, maybe I do got a little daddy issues too, but you just think the older guy's gonna do more for you. He's so mature, he's got it going on, he owns property. You think this, but it's really no difference from dating someone your age. Like, they both can be the same emotional age because a lot of people are stunted. And I feel like when it comes to men, when they have emotional things strike them or tragedies, they never really get over it. They never really do the work. They never really like succumb, or like, is that the word? They never really triumph over their tragedy or struggles. It just lingers for years and years in their emotional feel and how they treat people. And whereas the woman who's been through it, like, and I'm talking about the girl, I'm talking about the OnlyFans girls, I'm talking about the strippers. They see the worst kinds of men. They see the worst of male human nature. Even they have a little bit more faith that it only takes one person to make it all right. But when it comes to men, they just seem to be broken forever for some reason. I don't know why. I mean, if you're a man watching this, maybe you could tell me why, but I generally don't know. Okay, what they're doing by forcing you to chase them is they're keeping you emotionally invested in figuring them out. And that's all they need to siphon your energy. They get a high off of knowing that you're thinking about them. How could someone so beautiful and so powerful and so star-like you be so focused on them? They get a high from that. That's how they siphon your energy. Also, because they've created that loop in your mind, it's so sinister. They create that loop in your mind, then your brain, it takes a lot of energy. Your brain uses a lot of energy to figure out why things happen the way they do. And that's emotionally draining. It's also the idealized potential that they projected. So you're sitting here and you're thinking about the what ifs, you're in the fantasies. You know you should move on from this person. You know they're not good for you, but it's the idealized potential. It's like, what if? What if? It's not like they were rude to you. It's not like they ever made you feel bad. They've only ever made you feel good emotions, but then they withdraw that. You know why? They've never actually like went out their way to upset you. I mean, this might be a specific case, but it's because they can have a way back in. They can blame their absence on their, sorry, I've just been going through a lot. Wake up.
Breadcrumbing is when someone has no intentions of taking things further with you, but they talk to you not because they like you, but because they like the attention and the validation you're able to provide for them. A breadcrumber will not talk to you for extended periods of time. They'll talk to you just enough to get your attention, to make them feel good about themselves. Think of it like this. Have you ever fed birds, pigeons, or ducks at a pond? What do you do when you feed them? You don't give them the entire loaf of bread. You give them breadcrumbs. And what is the result of you giving them breadcrumbs? They continuously come back for more because you're breadcrumbing them. You're not giving them the entire loaf because you know that if you were to give them the entire loaf, they wouldn't come back for more. Now, what happens when you start pulling away and you walk away from the ducks, the birds, or the pigeons? They start coming after you. And that is the same exact thing that a person will do when they're breadcrumbing you. They'll give you enough to have you come back to them, but not enough to fully commit to you. They give you enough to keep you at arm's length, but no further than that. Breadcrumbers have low self-esteem, and the breadcrummy, the person being breadcrumbed, also has low self-esteem. So you have two people with low self-esteem feeding off one another. One of them is strategic and methodic and manipulative. The other one is naive and gullible. A breadcrumber knows exactly who to target, and they target people with low self-esteem because they know that all the person with low self-esteem needs is a little bit of attention and a little bit of validation to go right back to them. If they reach out, but they don't reach out too much, you're getting breadcrumbed. If they disappear for a few weeks and then out of nowhere they talk to you like nothing ever happened, they're breadcrumbing you. And the funny thing about breadcrumbers is communication is literally only on their terms. In some cases, you might reach out to them to hear from them and to talk to them, but you'll notice that sometimes the response is sheer silence, and that's because you're being breadcrumbed. Communication is only when they want it, not when you want it, because it's all about them. A breadcrumber is always going to use you to elevate their own low self-esteem, and they're not going to care about how you feel about it because they're inconsiderate and selfish. Don't let nobody out here in these streets play you and breadcrumb you.
One of the biggest red flags you can find in anyone is people who use the silent treatment on you. Silence is one of the biggest ways you can have a psychological impact on the person, because like I said, they've created a loop in your brain that causes your brain to overwork and use energy, and then you feel mentally drained from just thinking about it all day. They rationalize hurting you to soothe their egos, and then they choose emotional avoidance over anything versus addressing the root of the issue. No one torments you more than your own mind. The human mind, when it's making up scenarios and situations to fill that gap in that loop, that is so much more detrimental than getting a physical scar that's gonna heal over and you won't really think about it unless you see it. You try to fill in all the gaps in the scenarios only to be left feeling numb in your mind. And this is why it's so important to recognize emotional manipulation in others so that they're not drawing you into their chaos and then you're not left feeling like your energy has been siphoned. You spent a month crying over that man when you could have been doing so much good things with your energy. You could have been doing so many things to feel good about yourself, but you were left for an extended period of time just thinking about someone who hurt you. Think about that for a second. I'm not negating healing. I'm not negating taking time for yourself to process your emotions. I'm not negating psychoanalyzing everything and everyone if it helps you feel better and understand why people did what they did so you can move on. I think that is healthy, but being able to recognize emotional manipulation is the difference between you spiraling for a month or you getting back on the horse and doing what you need to do and thriving as a person. Remember, these people have no power over you. They just tricked you into siphoning your energy emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. And I truly feel like the longer you chase things and people that are not meant for you, the more you prolong and prevent the blessings that are meant for you. Why would your universe, why would your spirit guides, why would your angels bring in someone or something that could be so transformative for your soul and so good for you if you're going to just throw it away and not recognize the blessing when it shows up because you're just like run over a man? A lot of people do this with their exes and stuff in their past relationships. They tend to go back to it because it is familiar, it feels safe. And while there might have been hardships, there were good moments in that you cling to. You cling to that idealized potential in fantasy. But the longer you hold on to your ex or your past relationships, the longer you really prolong having someone who would do the right things. And then it's like the past is so tainted, so it's just not worth it. You need to tie up the loose ends. You need to tie up the lingering attachments, the people who leave things unresolved so that they can keep an attachment to you. The point of keeping things unresolved is so that the mind never finds peace unless it creates it for itself. If you're someone who wants to find closure, you're like, I just want to talk to them because I want closure, at least closure, you want clarity. You're never going to get the closure that you want because, like I said, if someone has emotional avoidance issues and they just literally cannot process their emotions like an adult, you're just going to be left feeling worse off because one, they never gave you an answer that you wanted. You didn't hear what you want to hear. You poured your heart and your emotions out. You were very transparent. And then they just hit you with some bullshit. So one, you're drawn back into their emotional chaos. You're left feeling even more depleted. That's why it's never really good to go out and try to seek closure or clarity. The thing I've learned is you do get closure and clarity, but it comes through their actions because their actions are saying more than what their surface level charm can say to you. So cut those ties, those lingering attachments, cut the cord. I don't care if it was a long-term relationship and you have kids with them. I don't care. And you shouldn't either. Like, I know it might seem harsh for me to say something like this, but trust me, I understand that it's not so black and white. But what I want for you is the better choice, the better option, the better outcome for your life. And you're not going to get that if you're holding on to past attachments and people who linger around in your auric field and in your energy. You're not going to get that if you don't cut the cord. I want you to remember that their inability to show up for you in ways that you need has nothing to do with your self-worth. If you're asking yourself, why did this happen to me? Wasn't I good enough? It has nothing to do with your self-worth and everything to do with their emotional immaturity, their insecurities, and their lack of accountability. I understand if this video might make you feel uncomfortable if you benefit from siphoning other people's energy and maybe you realize that you are a bit of an energy vampire through this video. I understand that that may feel uncomfortable, but you just do the work. Do the work. All the uncomfortable things that you don't want to think about, all the uncomfortable layers that you've blacked out for years, they all come back. It doesn't matter how much you try to shove it under to the back of your mind, your subconscious mind puts it to the forefront. You'll be tinged with guilt, regret, shame for as long as you don't do the work. I feel like what anyone wants is like happiness and joy and a fulfilling life. And the longer you just literally tell yourself stupid stories of like men are only good for financial resources, women are only good for one thing, you can never do this, that, and the third. Like, listen, I'm not telling you to like trust people. I think you should, have a little bit of like skepticism in the world. But if you've adopted beliefs that are so like against what your true nature wants, then it's not serving you. You have to let that go. If you tell yourself men are only good for money and provision, then you die never really experiencing a true love. And romance is like peak human experience. Don't tell yourself things that get in the way of like what you want. Don't do it to yourself. I hope this video was helpful. There are a multitude of ways of how people siphon energy, and I'm sure I missed a lot of them. Please let me know the manipulation tactics people have used on you in the past that have worked and you only realized because you were left feeling so drained later. And honestly, I love psychoanalyzing it because I'm like, ooh, maybe I could put that in my book. I also do realize that a lot of people might use this video as like, ooh, wow, that's good. I should try that. I should use that, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, I hope this helped. Oh, wait, and like, see yourself, like I said, see yourself, see your energy is like star energy. I haven't posted in a long time, and I think about my favorite YouTubers when they don't post and stuff like that. They become such a part of your everyday reality, and when they're gone, it feels like something is missing. So literally just see yourself as that star energy. See yourself as that like pinnacle beacon of like light and hope that people need.